Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Good day, good day, good day, good day. Welcome, 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 welcome. So today I just want to explain enter for me at large and artificial intelligence. Enter for me, also abbreviated as E4M, artificial intelligence in forex trading. That is what we are here about for, right? That is what brings us together today. You can get it from www.enterforme.com if you don't have it yet. So let's jump straight into it. So it's artificial intelligence in forex trading. So what is AI? How does it work? Where did we get this AI that we're talking about? Um, as by now, most of you should know what AI is, right? So is this computer that is seemingly very intelligent and knows so many things in the world, and it can identify things, it can create songs, it can create movies, it can write things, it can design, like it can just do a lot of things, right? But what does it do it? Where does that come from? How does it come about? Um, Please, this is almost going to be like a podcast. So I want you to listen instead of watching. I don't have a lot of pictures and videos prepared, but I want you to listen to what I have to say. If you don't have time to listen to it, I suggest that you don't use the platform until you have listened to this. So leave it until you have time to listen. Give it a good time. I know this thing is not going to be more than 45 minutes long. So listen to it so that you understand and know what you're getting yourself into. Right. So let's go back to it. So this AI thing that we see, right? It's a combination of what we call machine learning models. So it's machine learning models, which when put together, they become what we call the AI, right? Think of it like this. When you go to school, right, there's what we call LLB, BSc in mechanical engineering, um, like different degrees, right? But those different degrees, when you break them down, what you realize is that it's a lot of models which you have to write and pass. Once you pass them all combined together, that's what then makes up what you then call the LLB degree, the BSc in whatever, right? So it's the same thing with AI. What do you see? It's one thing, but at the back, there's a lot of models that were trained on different things. You see that? Like if you look at mechanical engineering, you have to do math, you have to do physics, you have to do um, fluid dynamics, you have to do mechanics, and all those things, right? It's not making, what is it? I forgot the name, right? But there's all these many courses and models that you have to do. So combined together, they give you that degree, right? So it's the same thing with AI. It's a lot of machine learning modules which are trained on certain things. They get to master those things and then put together, they make up the AI, right? So how does it really work? I'm sure you have seen something like those who use Android devices. Google has Google Photos, which is able to look at someone and say, this is William, this is John, this is Candace. You see that? But how did it come to that? Well, what they did, they created what we call a brain, right? What I call a brain. So you create a brain, then you teach it. Just like you teach someone in class, you can teach someone something completely new by showing them that, hey, this is this. And then you show it in a different way. This is this, this is this, this is this. Then the brain is able to then comprehend that, oh, this is called this. So it's the same thing. You create a brain, you give it pictures of a human being, you give it more pictures. The more you give it pictures, the more it is now learning that, oh, this is a human face. Oh, this is a human being. Oh, this is that. This is that. You see that? Then it knows that, oh, this is the human being, this is the face, this is the hand, and then all that. Right. Now, how does it then get to know Candice? How does it get to know William? How does it get to know John? Well, it's then given many different pictures of the same person. The more you give it, the more it then learns that, oh, oh, this is this person. You see that? So you cannot just give it one person and then and find it being able to identify that person in the middle of so many people. It has to look at many pictures, many pictures, many pictures, and then it's able to identify that, oh, this is the person. But obviously now it has become so powerful and more intelligent, so it doesn't necessarily need way too many pictures to know who this is. But in the training phase, it would need a lot of pictures to identify the same person time and again. So that's literally how it works. So in forex trading, what I then do is I give it a lot of, I create the brain, I give it a lot of information, a lot of data, a lot of candlesticks data on the market, right? Like I give it millions of data, and then I tell it that, hey, this is a support, hey, this is a resistance, hey, this is a bullish engulfing, hey, this is that, this is that, this is that. So I define these things. Then it goes through all that data and it finds the same things time and again, time and again, time and again. You see that? So that's how it works. So where did we get this AI? As you heard me saying, I train, I give it. So I created the whole AI that we're talking about, which is the Enter For Me AI. I created it from scratch, right? So let's move on. How is AI different from manual trading and forex trading bots? What is the difference between if one is to trade manually, if one is to use forex trading bots, or using AI in trading? So let's start with manually trading forex, right? There's too many limitations and flaws which affects trading in different ways. The biggest one being consistency. You know, um, I always say you cannot convince a person who is having a good month, good week, good 3 months that, hey, uh, you still haven't fully figured it out, right? That's how people are in forex trading. When they're having a winning streak, you can't convince them otherwise. But a human being, right? Not everyone, I'm not saying it's impossible, but most human beings will never get forex right because of consistency. My brother, my sister, consistency is the most important thing in forex trading. Without consistency, you can win 8 trades and lose everything in 2 trades. And literally, imagine winning 8 trades because you were in a good state of mind. Then the next 2 trades, you're not in a good state of mind. You can wipe out all the profits and the initial balance from just 2 bad trades. You see that? So, but as a human being, there are also some pros. Pros like, hey, something just happened. Um, you have instincts as well, right? So those things you can then be able to apply them in trading and you can avoid losses. But again, the same instincts, you can apply them and then you miss trades as well. You see that? So there's many limitations. You are a human being. You can sit for the next 1 hour waiting for a setup, and then you receive a call a minute before the setup plays out, where you come back 6 minutes after the call and you find the setup played out and it's gone. Or the setup comes, by the way it's coming in hard. You just think it's not going to turn anymore. So you decide to leave it and then it turns. There's just a lot of things that you have to factor in when it comes to manually trading. You also cannot consistently say, I'm going to risk $100. By the time you are calculating things and whatever, price is gone. Because you cannot calculate before if you don't know where the entry is and the stop loss is. But if you know those, then you can calculate and set limits. But if you're going to do it manually, it's highly impossible. So you can see manual trading is possible, but the consistency part is not impossible, but the difficult part. You see that? So it involves sitting in front of the computer or in front of your phone or your tablet and then trading manually, opening and closing trades. And you have to aim for consistency while at it. Anything outside of consistency will simply mean you are not profitable. So second one, forex bots in trading, something I've worked on for the past, I don't know, since 2019, right? So I have like 6 years doing forex trading bots. The nice thing about them is they remove human errors and weaknesses to a great extent, right? They are very good at being consistent, meaning they will never tomorrow decide otherwise. They can do the same thing for the next 1,000 years. If they were trained to do that thing, they will never change. So if anything, they are very good at being consistent. They have a linear approach in a sense that they will always do one and the same thing time and again, whatever they were taught or told, not even taught, told. Because with EAs, with bots, right, it's a line of commands. You tell this thing, hey, when this and this align, take a trade. When this and this align, close the trade. When this and this align, take a trade with a stop loss and a take profit here. If this or that, do this, do that. So they're able to do things very well. If I'm to ask you now, or if you ask profitable people, what does it take to be profitable? They will give you a set of rules, right? They'll give you a set of rules. Let's say one of those rules is always buy when price gets to intervals of $100. Now I ask you, you know that hey, you have to buy when price gets to $100 or $200. You teach a bot to buy at $100 and $200. Between you and the bot, who's going to be able to do it more accurately, faster, and consistently? It's a bot, right? If we are really putting a human being and a bot next to each other and we're giving them the same set of rules, a bot, a computer is going to be able to execute it better than a human being. Because with a human being, there's a lot of factors, right? You might have slow hands, you might be distracted, you might think otherwise when price gets to that $100 mark, whatever, all these things, right? Whereas a computer, once told that, hey, when price gets here, shoot, it will do exactly that. You see that? So you can see a bot when we are to follow a certain pattern to say we are trading to be profitable, a bot is going to be able to execute it way better than a human being. That is just the truth, right? Unless if you're talking about things like, hey, there's fundamentals, a bot cannot know that, hey, something just happened, it's affecting the market, like bombings and whatever. But again, a bot you created or you are telling to run, you can also be like, oh, I just found out that this just happened, so let me go and switch it off. You see that? So these things, they do need some human intervention. You cannot just fully leave them to do whatever. You see that? So you can see you can combine your manual instincts and whatever and assist the bot in a sense that, hey, don't trade now, stop, and all that, right? So now let's look at AI, artificial intelligence in forex trading. Remember, I said this thing is just a combination of brains, of models that are trained on different things, which you combine and they give you this outcome, which is the AI. You see it. So now with an AI, it has an overall improvement because it is dynamic. It is able to do what both the human and the forex bots can do, but doing what they also cannot do. You know, they are trained from training on millions of data. So what do I mean that they can do what the other two can do, but even better? As you heard, right? I was talking about how you set rules that when this and this meet, are met, take a trade. When this and this meet, take a trade. do this, do that, right? So with the AI models, what then happens is you get these millions of rows of data, of previous data, right? You say to the AI, hey, this is a resistance. If price is coming from below and it hits the resistance, perhaps you want to wait for a rejection. If price then rejects, take a trade and put a stop loss above, have a take profit at 1:2, 1:3, right? You give it, you're telling it, this is how I trade. Basically, you are giving it what you would do if you were sitting in front of the computer, in front of your screen. It's the same thing which you had taught a bot, right? You're giving it the same rules. So now what the AI would then do is it will go all the way back and be looking for the same patterns which you have told it to look for. When it gets those patterns, it also looks at other things like, okay, this trade came in. What was daily looking like? What was 1 hour looking like? What was 1 minute looking like? It's able to look at many different things. It can look at 100 things at the same time at the point where that trade was taken, and then it will note down, right? It goes to the next one, it will note down. So it will then say, okay, when this and this were like aligning, this trade worked out. When this and this were not aligning, this trade worked out but didn't get to take profit. So it studies the market overall, the whole environment around your trades, right? Even though the trades were meeting your criteria to say this is a trade I take, this is how I trade. With the AI, it will study the environment around the trade. And then it will look at, did this trade win or it lost? When it's doing that, it's learning. It's learning, it's learning, it's learning the market, it's learning your strategy, it's learning your strategy. At the end of the day, it will say to you, okay, this is how your strategy works. This is your win rate. But if you are to say, hey, only take trades where you are 70% confident, without looking at that, you would have gotten 1,000 trades. But then if you say only take trades where the AI is 70% confident that this will play out, it will then only take 400 trades out of 1,000, meaning the AI, based on what it saw, it is able to say there's 40% chance that this will work out. If that's the case, it means there's 60% chance that it won't work out. How does it know? Because it has seen in the past that setups like this, when things like this and that are aligning or not aligning, it has a higher chance of failing or a higher chance of working out. Now, that is what a human being cannot do. That is what a robot cannot do. The AI takes it further by studying the environments around the trade and is able to say, I am 80% confident that this will work out, or 20% confident that this will work out, meaning it's not going to work. You see that? So as the user of the AI, you are then able to say, hey, only take trades where you're 70% confident or 80% confident. Now, that's not something you can do with a bot. That's not something you can do manually. You see that? Because, I mean, as a human being, when a trade is playing out, you cannot look at 100 things around that trade. You cannot. Whereas an AI is able to look at 100 things surrounding that trade and decide if this will work out or not. You see that? So that is how AI works in trading. So you cannot have AI without training data. If someone says to you, here's an AI, you need to ask to see the training data. AI, like I was saying and teaching, is made by training on data. There are people who claim to have AIs, but all they have is robots. They need to show you the data where this AI was trained on. If you check here on my screen, right, These here are rows of data. These are dates 2023, 07, 18. At this time, price was like this. You find this is the open, this is the high, this is the close, this is the low, and then different things. You find maybe this is the price of the RSI, this is the what, different things, right? These are basically different things. These are rows of data. Now, if you look on the left, this is 2,122,806, 807, 808, and all the way to 2,122,825, right? This is the number of rows of data that were available for this one instrument and on this one time frame. And remember, this thing actually runs all the way to 2026. So if we were on 2 million rows of data only in 2023, so you can assume, you can already tell that there was well over 5 million to 6 million rows of data on just this instrument alone and just this time frame alone. You see that? So this training we've done on millions of data, which spans all the way from 2011 to 2026 across different instruments. So there's over 50 million rows of data which was used to train this model. You see that? So we ran all these things. Then at the end, we're able to see, okay, the TP win rate, meaning success rate, TP is 40%, 37%, all these different things. The profit factor is, so profit factor is basically profit divided by loss, right? A profit factor above 1 means it's profitable. And then all these are basically the stats you get at the end of running a particular model. You see that, so some models are not good, so you leave them, and then the ones that are good, you take them. You see that. And then just to see here on the right, for those who code and want to see if we know what you're talking about, I also just took a screenshot of just a bit snippet of the code, right? I didn't want to bore you guys with a lot of coding stuff because this is not about coding. Some of you don't even care about coding, so we didn't want to spend so much time on that. But yes, we used millions, over 50 million rows of data to train our models. You see that? So this is just a spreadsheet of the different outcomes. Again, I don't want to bore you with the numbers because I know first information can be overwhelming. So I'm not going to spend time on it. But this is after we have run everything, we are able to put things together and be able to see the win rate, the coverage, and then different things, which will then help us. If you can see here, for example, skip, produce, we then say this is weak. We then able to say, okay, this model is not good. Skip it. This model is good, so take it to production, and then things like that. You see that? So that is basically what this is at the end of the day. So what the AI models were trained for, right? Now we have different models, right? And if you use our platform, you'll realize that there are also different trading modes. So I will, for example, show you one or two, right? We then had something like that. And for those who've been using Enter for Me for long, you would know, right? So what we did, Enter for Me initially was always designed to follow a trend, right? But trends cannot always go up. They always get to a point where they stop and then they change direction and start doing the same thing in the opposite direction. So we trained models, right? And these are the models which you use for day and scalp mode, right? We trained these models and we said, hey, given this retracement, are we going to see price change direction? Or are we going to see price hit take profit, where we place the take profit at the high. This is what we are using for the scalp, right? So what it basically does is, hey, we just retraced. I think price will hit the TP, which is basically the immediate high. Hey, I'm 80% confident that we're going to hit the high after this retracement. You see that? So it looks at different things. Here it will be like, okay, I'm 40% confident that we're going to hit the high, and then maybe price then drops. You see that? So this is what we trained the scalp and day trading models for, right? So meaning, I know there is risk to reward setting, right? Of which your risk to reward can be like, and I want you to go and observe. If you've been using it, go and observe it, then you will see how accurate, how good the AI is, right? I want you to go and observe. So let's say it took a trade here. What it was trained for was to say, will price hit the TP? But obviously, when you then go and put a stop loss, which we have put a stop loss, it was not trained with the stop loss. This one was specifically trained to say, is price going to go and remove the high? Is price going to hit TP? Right. But obviously, we then said, just like you do in your manual trading, you have rules to say, if I take a trade like this, I'm going to put a stop loss here. Right. But this model, when it was trained, it didn't have a stop loss. It was trained to just identify if price is going to change direction and completely drop before hitting the take profit. You see that? So now, what we then did when we go to live was to introduce a stop loss, but it was never there as part of the training. And it is not, I know we have risk to reward to say, okay, I want a risk to reward of 1:2. You find price goes up, it doesn't get to 1:2, then it turns. But what you'll often find is that it did manage to remove that high, that immediate high, because that's what it was trained for. So when we come and introduce risk to reward on that model, it's not going to produce the same win rate because it was not trained to look at, will price go all the way up until it hits take profit of 1:2? When it comes to training these things, you need to be very specific. If you want to train it to hit 1:2, you have to do that, of which that model was not trained for that. That is why we're saying that the target was always this high, hence the scalp, right? So for the day, right, what we basically did was, so the scalp is then training on lower time frames like 2 minutes, 3 minutes, right? And it's looking at, okay, given this retracement, I'm going to remove the high. If you look at it, let's say you have settings on 1:3, 1:4, and it seems like it almost gets there, but doesn't get there. What you'll always then realize is, oh, the AI was correct about the fact that price is going to remove the high. Like, always check that. You'll realize that it was always correct that price is going to go and remove the high. You see that? So now, that is the one we are using for scalp, right? It's a similar one for the day. The only difference is that then there we use a higher time frame, which it's still the same thing. It's still looking for the same thing, but because it's a higher time frame, the TP is going to be further, you know, because if it was 2 minutes or 3 minutes, you find the TP is here. And then another one here on 2 minutes, right? But all those things, when you look at them on a higher time frame, it will just be, oh, a trade was entered here, and then the TP is there. So that is what the day is, in short, right? So obviously, it also has our own manually put rules of saying put a stop loss here. And then if you're going to say risk to reward 1:2, then it will go and put a stop loss, I mean, a take profit there. But this was never part of the training. It was not trained to look for trades which can hit 1:2 risk to reward. You see that? So that is what the about 12 models, and I think 20 models were trained for that, right? Then we have another set of models, right? Um, I was actually meant to delete this, but I didn't, so it's fine. Like I said, it's all about podcast. I want you to listen to me more than looking at the pictures, right? So the other one, the one we are using for autonomous and um, prop firms. Now, those ones were trained specifically to look for setups which can hit at least 1:4 risk to reward. So, still the same concept. Here's a retracement. Let's go in. Let's put a stop loss. So, yes, it was trained with a stop loss, with an entry, and targeting a risk to reward of 1:4, or 1:5, or 1:6. And using some complicated mathematics, which I don't want to go into also because of IP, ultimately the model was trained to give us a risk to reward of, I call it smart 1:10, right? But of 1:10. So meaning this model with 1:10, my brother, my sister, you cannot get a lot of trades that give you a risk to reward of 1:10. You just can't. And if anything, I'm just quickly going to go back. This was the TP rate of such a model. 40%, 37%. But if you do your own maths, you will then realize that 1:10 giving you something like that is actually quite good. You see that? So that is what we have done with the other model. It's using a smart way of achieving a 1:10 risk to reward, meaning you can lose even 8 times out of 10 trades. And then when it gets that winning trade, you say 10 minus 8, you're still up 2 at the end. You see that? Now, as a human being, after losing 8 trades in a row, you'll be discouraged. But the AI will never be discouraged, right? We are using the power of mathematics to say, hey, we understand we won't win everything. 1:10 is not easy, but 1:10 is doable. When we trained and we back tested and whatever, we saw that it's able to get such things 40% of the time. Okay, if that's the case, then do this. You see that? We know that even if it doesn't win a lot, at the end of the day, it's about being profitable. And the profitability here is to say one win is able to wipe out losses and leave profits. You see that? So remember, I said it's a smart 1:10. So sometimes when you look, you might not see 1:10 on your chart, but the AI knows what it's doing. It knows when to risk, where to put the TP, and then all those things. But at the end of the day, it sees to it that, hey, the risk to reward is 1:10. You see that? So now this model is different to the first one because the first one was trained without a stop loss and a TP. It was just to say, hey, price is dropping. Are we going to remove the high? Hey, price is dropping. Are we going to remove the high? Or price is dropping. Are we going to then see price drop further? Now, with this other one, we say price is dropping. Let's enter. Put a stop loss here. Target a risk to reward of 1:1 whatever. You see that? So these are two different sets of models that we have trained for. The other one is available on autonomous, prop and prop firm, while the other one is available on scalp and day. You see that? So that is what the models were trained for. That is very important because you need to know that you cannot use the scalp one to try and have a risk to reward of 1:5, 1:6. Yes, you can do on a good day, it will work, but what you need to know is that it was not trained for that. You see that? Now, how do you access Enter For Me AI? You can simply get it through our mobile application or web application, meaning you can use it from your desktop, you can use it via the website, or you can download the app on your phone, but it's currently only available on Android, right? But we are going to also have a desktop software for it. So I don't know, by the time you watch this, perhaps it might be there. But for now, when we are recording this, we do not have the desktop version. And that being said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your attention. This is the technology that works for you and me, right? We are taking advantage of technology to make it work for us. I trust you now understand what AI is about, how it works in forex trading, and what we have trained, what models we have, and what you can then use them for. So what I'm then just quickly going to do is I'm just quickly going to show you the platform, right? So I'm going to access the platform from the web browser, right? So this is the platform from the web browser. Chances are when you see it again, maybe we might have added things, removed things, and whatever. So it will not always look the same. But right now, as we are recording and doing this, this is how it's looking, right? I don't know. There are people who are so lazy, and we are not going to be wasting time with people who are lazy. If you are lazy, this is not for you because you cannot open this app and then see an info button right there. And then you decide, nope, I'm not going to click the info button. I'm going to click the support button. No, you need to click on the info button, learn, read if there's anything for you there, and then you can take it further, right? So that is the info button you have right there. There's also, well, if you're watching this, it means you probably came to videos, unless if you're watching it from YouTube or another platform. But I believe you are watching it from the app, and there under videos, you are able to basically watch, right? And then now here, this is your E4M AI dashboard. What you see is that today I already have a trade that was taken and it has lost 50. And what you see here is that I'm running on autonomous, I'm approved, enabled, and connected. But all these, there is what we call another video that is specifically aimed at showing you how to use this, right? So let me not waste time on this one. Let me just see if there's any other thing that I'm leaving out. I don't believe there's any other thing that I'm leaving out, but maybe perhaps just to show you the training environment where the whole cooking happens. That is the code, that is the code, that is the code. Well, it's just some portion of the code. And this is the whole back testing thing, which we then do. So this is just another model that we are busy running and testing, of which at the end of all the testing, we are then able to come back and see that, okay, this is good or this is not good. Um, Look at this. It has a 34.7% win rate, perfect factor of 2.13, and with a net profit of 1,000, whatever. I think these are even points. I don't think these are dollars. Right. So yeah, that is basically what it is. And yeah, enjoy. I think you now have a better understanding of what this is about, and you are in a position to make quite well-informed decisions. Right. All right. Cheers. Bye.